Hello, everybody. This is Skip Elsheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where we watch old 16mm films. And I'm not live today because it's Thanksgiving, and I am either preparing food, or I am eating food, or I'm watching a parade, or a dog show, or some goofy movie. I don't know. But anyways, I still wanted to provide for lunch and show some 16mm films. And so today we are going to watch, of course, this film means so much more. It's Day of Thanksgiving. It was made by Centron Films. And basically it is an amazing story of a family who realizes that because of their budget, or lack of budget, they can't afford a turkey, and they can't afford some of the other things that a Thanksgiving meal traditionally has. So the kids decide to list what they are thankful for, and they are not related to food. They are related to family, community, safety, freedoms, many things that we take for granted. And so this resonates with me pretty hard. Centron is this amazing film company. They were based out of Kansas, and they were the educational film company with a heart. And this film is very much related to that. So there's that. Then we got some commercials. Then we've got How Many Days to America, A Thanksgiving Story, which is a barely animated film. I think it's Centron made it, perhaps. They made some kind of so-so films in the 70s that dealt with social issues in history, and they didn't shoot them. They didn't have a bunch of people in costumes, period costumes. Anyways, so then we have some more commercials. Then Cranberry Story. I don't like cranberries. I do not. I think like in little tiny bits I like it, but I can't, my body, I can't take it. But anyways, I know some of you love cranberries, and so here's a Cranberry Story. It's an epic industrial film about how we get cranberries. Then we got some more commercials. Then a film that I've shown in the past, The Dinner Party, which is basically a wonderful film to teach kids about dinner etiquette at a party. And then we're just going to watch some more commercials because that's what you do. Anyways, I wanted to say thank you so much for being there and for being eyeballs who watch what we do, tolerate our shenanigans, tolerate our technical problems. It means a great deal for you to be there for us. If you are feeling festive even more, I was on the Saturday morning cartoon show on Found Footage Festival. It was a horrible Hanna-Barbera kind of special about Thanksgiving. The Thanksgiving that wasn't, I think, or almost wasn't. Made in like the early 70s. Not very good, but it's fun to watch it with a bunch of people. And the Found Footage Festival guys are Nick and Joe and George. They're fun. So the scanner just stopped. I'm scanning while I'm talking to you. You're probably like, what is that train sound? But you'll see some of this footage later. But anyways, thanks so much. Enjoy what you have. Enjoy the people around you. Cherish them because they might not be around. But love you guys, and we will see you on Friday. We'll kind of see how Friday plays out. But take care. Thank you again, and happy Thanksgiving. Bye.
People I'm Bill Johnson. Around here, they just call me Dad. I've been trying to read, but I just can't seem to do it. Thanksgiving Day. We Johnsons had a Thanksgiving, the best we've ever had. And I can't help thinking that what made it better was a real feeling of thankfulness. And that's odd, too, when you consider the shape things were in when I got home from work yesterday. My kids, Dick and Tommy and Susan, were all home from school. And of course, Mother and the baby were there. As kids will, mine were living tomorrow right along with today, looking forward to Thanksgiving. And like most men, I'm glad it was Mother instead of me who had to break the news to them.
Tomorrow's Thanksgiving.
Turkey and dressing and pie and cake.
And fruit salad and whipped cream and cranberries. Gee, I can hardly wait. Me too.
Well, you know, children, we've had a lot of expenses this month, and, well, your father and I thought that... Well, the truth of the matter is, there just won't be any turkey this year.
No turkey for Thanksgiving?
Oh, I'm going to make a pumpkin pie. We'll have plenty to eat, but, well, we'll just have to get along without turkey.
Mom, you don't mean it. It won't be Thanksgiving at all.
Even the Pilgrims had a feast. After all, isn't that what Thanksgiving's for? I don't think it's fair.
And it was right there that I came in, right in the thick of it. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Paul.
Hello, Mother, Dick, Susan. Well, what's been going on around here? What's the matter with everybody, anyway?
Mom says we're not going to have any Thanksgiving. No turkey, no good thing.
A fat lot we're going to have to be thankful for.
Oh, I don't think you kids really mean that.
We do, too. We've always had turkey for Thanksgiving.
Yes, and everybody else in the block's going to have it this year, as always.
Yes, we've always had turkey, just as a lot of Americans have had it, and we'll keep on having it. Turkey on Thanksgiving's a great American tradition. But what you kids are saying makes it sound as if the turkey's the only thing we had to be thankful for.
Well, gee whiz, no, Dad. It's not that at all.
Oh, I know, Dick. With turkey, it's easy to lose sight of what Thanksgiving really means.
And don't think we're just making excuses because we don't have any turkey this year. Well, we know it'll mean a lot more to us the next time we do have it.
Well, sure. Suppose we don't have a bang-up feast. We're still a lot better off than the Pilgrims.
That's it, Dick. And do you other kids see what Dick's trying to say? Turkey or no turkey, we've still got all the freedoms and privileges the Pilgrims gave us. And out of those privileges have come a lot of things. Things the Pilgrims never even dreamed of.
Why, we could make a list a mile long. Why don't we do it?
Now, hold on a minute. You've got the idea, but it isn't something you can write down like a grocery list. You've got to feel it down deep before you can really be thankful for anything. I tell you what let's do. And let's take a little more time to think this over. When you get right down to it, there are some pretty tough decisions in making up your mind what means the most to you. Your life? Sure, that's one thing you can't get along without. But do you know that there are some places in the world today where you have to get along without just about everything else?
Golly, Daddy.
I guess I kind of got carried away. But I'll bet you one thing. If we really think over what we have to be thankful for, when we sit down to whatever Mother fixes to eat tomorrow, we'll be one family in America that will really have a Thanksgiving dinner. Well, that's how it got started. The Johnsons didn't have any turkey. And the kids, no, I mean everybody, likes to make something special out of a special day. So we fell back on something as old as the Pilgrims, toting up the common, ordinary blessings that we had to be thankful for. That night, I'd see Dick there building his model airplane, and Susan just playing. Only they weren't just playing. They were mulling things over, thinking big thoughts for such young heads. And as for Mother and Tom and baby Janet, and yes, me too, it was as if we had our eyes open for the first time, seeing all the things there were to appreciate in just any ordinary day in America. When Thanksgiving Day got here, we took our places around the table and we were ready. And then, well, we all knew it. There are some things you just can't say. But everybody in his own way knew what he had to be thankful for, and that this was the time to think about it. Tom was first.
I am thankful for getting plenty to eat all the time, with extras that count, like cookies and milk after school. Like Mom says, I'm hungry all the time anyway, and if I didn't live in a country where there was plenty to go around, golly. And I'm thankful for the free public library, where I can get books about adventure. Jack London, Richard Halliburton. Gee, the way they tell a story, it's as good as being there yourself. And it's free, with only a library card.
Yes, Tommy thought about some of the things he ought to be glad for all the time. And somehow turkey and trimmings seemed to matter a whole lot less than he thought they did yesterday. Well, then it was Susan's turn. Susan's a happy-go-lucky kid. You'd never credit her with thinking beyond her dolls, but she got right into the spirit of it.
I am thankful we have what we need to wear. Though Mother says it's hard to keep up with us, we grow so fast. I never thought before how many clothes it takes for all kinds of weather, or how it would be to have to do without the right ones. I'm glad to be able to go to Sunday school, or go to any church I want, any Sunday. I'm thankful for my mother and daddy, that they are here with us, that both of them aren't too worried about things to take time to have fun with us. I'm glad we're a family, that families are still important in America.
I guess Dick, being the oldest, was having some pretty serious thoughts.
I am thankful for being able to get an education, for living where schools, all schools, open their doors to a guy who wants to learn, where school books are studied instead of burned, where a guy is rated by how much he knows, and the community is rated by how well it teaches him. I'm glad I've got a chance to play, batting a ball around once in a while. Stuff like that. I'm glad it's fun, growing up in America.
Sure, baby Janet's too young to understand the big word Thanksgiving. She's too little even to tell us the things that make her happy. But we can tell, and maybe she's thinking about them now. Maybe she's thinking about the fun of splashing around in the tub and about how good it feels to be clean. About playtime with Mother and the security she feels in Mother's arms. And as for Mother, seems she's always working, cooking, ironing, tending children, daylight to dark. What does she have to be thankful for?
I am thankful that my children had the privilege of being born safely and of growing up healthy and strong. I'm thankful that I have the privilege of guiding them as they become useful men and women. And I'm thankful for all the things our American system makes possible for the Smiths and the Browns and the Johnsons, for washing machines, hot water out of a tap, and a telephone to call the doctor when one of the family is sick. A car to get Dad to work. Yes, I'm thankful for all the things free people working together can produce. I'm thankful that when my neighbor drops in to borrow a cup of flour, we've got the right to talk about anything we want to. The parent-teacher project, the new mayor, or Jane Jones' hat. And last of all, I'm truly thankful for the peace of mind that Dad's job brings, for knowing that even though there are lots of luxuries we can't afford, there still will always be enough to go around for the things we have to have. I'm glad Dad doesn't work slave hours, that there are evenings and Sundays and vacations when we can all be together.
That's Mother for you, grateful for what America means to her family. And now for me. I've got so many things to be thankful for. I'm thankful for this house. It may need a coat of paint, it has a mortgage, but it's ours, a place where we can be together in privacy. And I'm thankful for the thing that makes this house our home, the happiness here, Not just today or on Christmas morning, but on a day-to-day basis all through the year. For knowing that a knock on our door means nothing to fear. A friend calling, or maybe a bill collector, or a kid selling magazines. You never know what to expect. But you can count on one thing. It's not going to be some political gangster coming to drag one of us off to jail because we believe in freedom. And I'm glad that that freedom we've got lets me choose the kind of work I like and can do best. Taking a sluggish motor and making it hum again. Makes me feel that somebody got to his work or wherever he had to go just because of me. And feeling like that gives me a lot of satisfaction. And I'm thankful for my newspaper. Just a few cents worth of printer's ink and paper, but more valuable than any amount of money. Because in it, the editor's got the privilege of printing what he thinks. And I've got the privilege of agreeing with him or not, however the facts strike me. And both of us, the editor and I, have the right to act on our opinions on Election Day, to vote for the principles we believe in. And finally, I'm thankful for being able to believe, in spite of everything, that somehow, someway, the unity we've got here in the Johnson family will someday spread to men and nations throughout the world. For all these things, we are truly and humbly thankful. Amen.
Ladies, one reason you can always trust a Swanson frozen dinner, it rounds the hungry edge of appetite nobly well. Or as some of my more blunt brethren might say, it satisfies. A case in point, Swanson's turkey dinner. First the entree, prized poultry, expressed in succulent slices of white and dark meat, mantled in rich brown gravy and tastefully enhanced with Pepperidge Farm dressing. And now behold the glorified superfit potatoes, richly regaled in butter. In the next neighborly compartment, a plentiful portion of peas, also bathed in butter sauce. And to complete our royal repast, a tantalizing extra, tangy sweet cranberry sauce. Aha, you say, but aren't there others? None that even remotely approaches this. So take my word for it, ladies. Trust Swanson.
I'm starved. What do we get?
Why don't you come on and tackle a turkey? A Hardee's Turkey Club. Turkey Club. Turkey, bacon and big cinch on a natural grain bun.
A great big portion of turkey breast, that's a whole lot of turkey to say the least.
Lettuce, tomato, and mayonnaise.
And sizzling bacon as a centerpiece. Come on and tackle a turkey.
A Hardee's Turkey Club.
We'll take two.
It was nice in our village. Till the night in October when the soldiers came. My mother hid my little sister and me under the bed. When I peered out, I could see my mother's feet in their black slippers and the great muddy boots of the soldiers. When they were gone, my father said, "We must leave right now." "Why?" I asked. "Because we do not think the way they think, my son. Hurry." He would not let us take anything but a change of clothes. My mother cried, "Leave all my things? My chair where I sat to nurse our children? The bed cover that my mother made every stitch by hand?" "Nothing," my father said. "Just money to buy our way to America." The word America was not new to me. I'd heard it whispered between my parents in the restless hours of the night. America. We were going there? Others too moved silently along the secret streets. Boats bobbed in the dark water of the quay, and men talked behind their hands while gold passed from one pocket to another. "I must have your wedding ring," my father told my mother, "and your garnets." My mother took the ring from her finger and the garnet necklace from its little bag, buried deep in her bundle. She did not speak. My father said we would leave while it was still dark. "How many days to America?" my little sister asked. "Not many," my father said. "Don't be afraid." The fishing boat was small, and there were many people. More kept coming and more. We chugged heavily from harbor to open ocean. "Can we see America yet, Papa?" All the time my little sister asked questions. "Not yet," my father said. We were an hour from shore when the motors stopped. The men crowded the engines. "A part is broken that cannot be fixed," my father told my mother, and her face twisted the way it did when she closed the door of our home for the last time. The women made a sail by knotting close together. And when they pulled it high, I saw my father's Sunday shirt blowing in the wind. But the sail carried us back toward our own shore, and men shot at us from the cliffs. At last, we got the boat turned in the right direction. "How many days to America now?" my little sister asked. "More, my small one," my father said, and he held us close. I saw him look at my mother across our heads. Day followed night, and night day. Our food and water ran out, and many people were sick. At sunset, my father and mother and sister and I huddled in the bow. Then my father sang as he sang at home. "Sleep and dream, tomorrow comes, and we shall all be free." It was the only time I was not afraid. By day we fished and shared the catch. When it rained, we caught the water in our buckets. I slept and dreamed of home, of food, of my favorite uncle who worked with my father in his shop and who had stayed behind. Sometimes I cried, and then my mother would rock me against her. Once we saw a whale, gray as an elephant and covered with barnacles. "Come, push us, whale," my mother called. "Push us to America." But the whale did not hear. Once a boat came, roaring close on wings of foam, and we were filled with joy, but not for long. Thieves. Fear moved like a bad wing between us. Men scrambled from the other boat to ours, waving their guns, shouting for money and jewels. There was little to take, but what we had went with them. Once there was a shout of land, and we crowded the railing. But though we pulled on the sail, our boat would go no closer. "We will swim for help," my father said, and he and two others jumped into the water. "No," my mother cried, but they were gone already. When at last we saw them rise on the green roll of the surf, saw them carried to shore, we danced and cheered. But there were soldiers on the rocks. Everyone was quiet, and my mother gripped my hand. "They're bringing them back," she whispered. 3 soldiers with rifles came too in the small boat. They brought us water and fruit, but they did not speak or smile as they tossed it up to our waiting hands. "Was it not the right land, Papa?" I asked as the soldiers pulled away. "Will it not do?" "It would do, but they will not take us," my father said. My sister tugged at his arm. "They don't like us?" "It is not that." He did not explain what it was. Our family got 2 papayas and 3 lemons and a coconut with milk that tasted like flowers. The sea was rough that night, and my father's song lost itself in the wind. I said the words as the stars dipped and turned above our heads. Tomorrow comes, and we shall all be free. It was the next day, the tomorrow, that we sighted land again. I was afraid to hope. A boat came. My mother clasped her hands and bent her head. Was she afraid to hope too? The boat circled us twice, and then a line was thrown, and we were pulled toward shore. There was such a silence among us then, such an anxious, watchful silence. People waited on the dock. "Welcome," they called. "Welcome to America." That was when our silence turned to cheers. "But how do they know we would come today?" my father asked. "Perhaps people come every day," my mother said. "Perhaps they understand how it is for us." There was a shed, warm from the sun on its tin roof. There were tables covered with food. Though the benches were crowded, there was room for all of us. "Do you know what day this is?" a woman asked me. She passed me a dinner plate. "It is the Coming to America Day," I said. She smiled. "Yes, and it is special for another reason too. Today is Thanksgiving." "What is that?" My little sister was shy, but not too shy to ask her questions. "Long ago, unhappy people came here to start new lives," the woman said. "They celebrated by giving thanks." My father nodded. "That is the only true way to celebrate." We joined hands and closed our eyes while my father gave thanks that we were free and safe and here. "Can we stay, Papa?" my little sister asked. "Yes, small one," my father said. "We can stay."
What do you use to make pie crust? Yellow spread? White shortening? Or both? Why not get the best of both with wonderful Golden Fluffo? Golden Fluffo gives crust the rich golden goodness you get with yellow spread and all the tender flakiness of the finest white shortening. Be sure to get the best of both. Get Wonderful Golden Fluffo.
Can you see light through the pie crust you bake? I'm Norman Keel. Right here in a Toronto supermarket, I'm making this test on pie crust made with Fluffo. To prove Fluffo makes pie crust so delicate, you can see light right through it. I'll show you what I mean. Would you help me, Mrs.
Cavan.
Mrs. Cavan, would you turn on the light, please?
Oh, it shines right through.
See, Fluffo makes pie crust so delicate, you can see light right through it. So tender, it flakes at the touch of a fork. Now, taste it.
Certainly is delicate.
Because it was made with Fluffo, the pure white shortening that's put through 4 separate refining processes. That's why Fluffo makes pie crust so delicate, you can see light right through it. Try Fluffo. You'll like the price, too.
The sand dunes of Cape Cod haven't changed much in the last few centuries. They look about the same now as they did 300 years ago, when the first pilgrims, having learned of the delightful uses of cranberries from their Indian friends, used to Massachusetts shore. Today, cranberries are grown as a crop in many parts of including New Jersey, Wisconsin, Washington, and Oregon, and Cape Cod grew. They were here long before the Mayflower landed, and it is still Cape Cod that furnishes the major share of the nation's crop. For cranberries, as these early Americans came to know, are not only good to eat, they're good for you too. Taught them how to pound the berries together with deer pemmican, a reserve still used by explorers. Later, when their men began to ply the 7 seas in clipper ships, they learned that cranberries could keep sailors free from scurvy, so they picked them to send on the long sea voyages. But mostly they used them because they taste good. They were the very first American fruit, greatly appreciated then, even more appreciated now. The passing of 300 years has made some big differences. Today's cultivated vines are thick and lush, the berries plump and juicy. Most of the crop is still picked by hand, but the modern cranberry scoop has replaced the bare fingers, and large groups of experienced pickers are needed to reap the harvest quickly when it's just at its prime. About 100 years, there were no cultivated berries. They were. In 1816, an observing citizen named Henry Hall noticed the difference between the berries that grew on bare ground like this. The bigger one that grew is based the technology of modern cranberry cultivation and the fascinating story of a modern. This is how the site is chosen with plenty of water for flooding and the right kind of acid peat soil. First move is to take out the trees. Then ditches are dug and dikes are built so the bog. Next, the site is flooded, left underwater a year or so to kill the stumps and roots, make it easier to clear the land, and work the soil down until it is as smooth and level as a tabletop. Finally, sand is put on, the same clean white sand that Henry Hall observed. But instead of waiting for the wind to blow it where the plants are, now we can use modern machines to work it down to an even 3-inch layer of peat. Then planting can begin. Cuttings from good plants, taken in age, are used to start the new bog. 2 or 3 are put in each hill. The hills are spaced 12 inches apart. Roots are pushed through land with a dibble to reach the peat soil below. During the first year of growth, the new plants will begin to put out runners, which in time will cover the whole surface. At the end of 2 years, the new bog looks like this. The runners have a good start now, and another year will see the ground well covered. In time, the endless process of weeding has begun. a process that goes on while the plants grow into mature bearing vines like these, and continue from then on. 4 years have gone by since the bog was begun, years of constant effort and expense that must precede the harvesting of the first crop. A cranberry bog has to spend a lot of time underwater. After the crop is harvested in the fall, after the plants have become dormant, the gates are opened. Water from the reservoir floods into the bogs and old plants. It will remain there all winter long and will protect the vines from the icy winds which would otherwise dry them out. Frozen, they wouldn't be able to replace their lost moisture, so will protect the plants just as a blanket of wool would protect you or me. In cranberry country, the first real sign of spring is the draining of the bogs. With the winter's water off, this is how the newly drained bog looks. And this is the time when anxious growers can be seen looking things over, wondering how the plants came through the winter. During the first few weeks after the bog is drained, as the sap rises in the plants and they change from the dark brown of winter to the fresh green of spring, they are very easily damaged by sudden frosts. Flooding with water is the best protection. So an essential part of a cranberry plantation is a reservoir which can furnish this protective water at a moment's notice. Cover the plants quickly when a frost warning comes. For a light frost, only the ditches would need to be filled. Enough steam would rise from the water for protection. But if a heavy one is on the way, the water is allowed to come up around the plants themselves. Here's another sure sign of spring. This grower is getting his birdhouses ready for the swallows soon to arrive. Swallows wage war relentlessly on insects. They are keeping the bogs free of these pests. And so it pays the grower to make them welcome, invite them to move in and raise a family. To keep themselves and the kids at home well and properly fed, a swallow has to catch its own weight in insects every day. So it's many a trip they make from the house to the bog and back again. From early in May right on through the growing season, this is a common sight on any well-run bog, sweeping. To make certain no harmful parasites get a start, growers use an insect net, swinging it back and forth close to the plants. After 50 measured sweeps, the net is turned inside out and examined carefully. According to the number caught, if any, and the kind, the grower can decide whether or not to use treatment and what kind will be effective. If crop dusting is indicated, they usually call out the helicopter. The powerful downward air blast where it can do the most good. An indispensable part of cranberry raising is the ordinary honey bee. So, just as the blossoms are about to open, beehives are spotted along the bog's edge, and the bees liberated to begin their work of pollinating the blossoms. Without little creatures, there'd be no berries. When the bog is in full bloom, a bee will gather all the nectar it can carry back to the hive in about 4 or 5 minutes. In that short time, he'll visit about 50 blossoms, gathering a little nectar from each and spreading pollen as he goes. In one day's work, he will thus pollinate perhaps 5,000 or more blossoms. One version of how cranberries got their name is that the blossom of a crane, hence craneberries, which in time became cranberries. Look in the upper right-hand corner of the picture, and you'll see how this might have happened. The pleasant result of the bee's arduous labor is that each of these blossoms will eventually be replaced by a young cranberry. Another few weeks soon speed by, and the green of the young berries gives way to the deeper hue of the ripening bog. And now you can begin to see the growers on the prowl, watching and waiting for berries to get ripe enough to harvest. The berries in the lower part of these vines are still a little green, but soon they too will be red and ripe. It's almost time to send out a call for the pickers. Harvest time is a time for old friends to get together. A typical fine October morning, they congregate like this on the shore of a ripe bog. They're waiting for the boss to give the go-ahead. He has to decide when the dew is off the plants and the vines are dry enough for picking to begin. Many of these people turn out every year. They come from families that have been cranberry pickers for generations. They know just how to dress for their work too, although no two would agree on the details. They keep coming year after year because they enjoy the social contacts. They like to earn the extra money for Christmas, and because they like the work. Beautiful skies and a warm sun overhead make a cranberry bog a mighty pleasant place to be on a fine fall day. And the rhythmic swish of the scoops, the rattle of the berries, these are sweet music in the ears of those who know them. After the pickers get started, they advance across the bog in a diagonal line so that each one can overlap the area picked by the one ahead. The tradition, carefully made by hand, has long wooden teeth that comb the berries out of the vines. The skill of the picker adjusts the motion of the scoop to irregularities in ground and vines, avoids damaging the plants. After years of use, the scoops acquire a fine satiny sheen, the result of constant polishings and waxy berries. One of the features of cranberries that has made them so useful and popular is the glossy coating of wax that nature provides to protect each berry, makes for fine keeping quality, and keeps them looking lustrous and fresh long after they're picked. Behind the picking lines, the helpers keep the empty boxes spotted so the pickers can reach them, take away the full ones, load the special light wheelbarrows in which the full boxes are carried to the shore of the bog. These pictures have shown how cranberries are picked on Cape Cod. Other parts of the country use other methods, depending on local climate and conditions. In Wisconsin, for instance, they flood the bogs to make the berries float, then scoop them out of the water. This method has the advantage of leaving fewer berries behind, but can only be used in climates where the air is crisp and dry enough to evaporate the water quickly from the freshly picked berries. Flooded provides a handy way to get the crop to the shore. As in any other industry, there is a constant effort to realize greater economy by the use of machines. This is one of resulting mechanical pickers. It has, just like those of a scoop, to comb the berries from vines, and rubber fingers to carry them back to a basket. When the nature of the ground and the vines is such as to permit its use, this machine does a good job and is finding increasing application. In Washington and Oregon, many cranberry growers have designed and built their own vacuum pickers. Except for size, they operate exactly like a household vacuum cleaner. The air rushing into the nozzle merely carries the berries along with it, taking them back to the machine and dropping them gently in a sponge rubber lined hopper from which they are intervals. Cranberry harvesting is always a colorful sight and attracts lots of visitors to the bogs. One eastern grower has even gone so far as to install a narrow gauge railroad which carries many a sightseeing trainload of visitors through his bogs. The road has a serious purpose too, and carries workers, supplies, and newly picked crops to and from the bogs. And so the ripe red harvest is brought in from thousands of bogs coast to coast, each in its own way making its contribution of good health, good taste, and gracious living to the American dinner table. Before any of the crop can get to market, a single berry has to meet exacting standards of excellence. First, they are put through the winnowing machine to to blow out all the chaff. Then the separator. This ingenious machine, developed by cranberry growers, makes use of a characteristic unique among fruits. Good cranberries will bounce. Bad ones won't. Berry gets 7 chances to bounce over a 4-inch wooden barrier. The lively ones that make the grade go directly to the screening tables. The canvas belt that carries the berries moves slowly enough so that the trained eyes of these expert screeners can detect and discard every imperfect berry. This grading machinery, like all the equipment and the plants that pack and process cranberries, is owned by the people who actually grow them through their growers' cooperatives. The berries still belong to the growers and will be marketed under the growers' own brand names. That part of the crop which is to be canned goes directly from the screening tables to this big white tile. The paddle wheels keep the berries on the move in the ever-changing water, keep washing them toward the elevator. On their way up, the washed berries are thoroughly rinsed 7 times by 7 sets of high-pressure water jets. The only difference between cooking cranberry sauce in your own home is the quantity. Each of these kettles holds enough fresh berries to make 500 pounds of jellied sauce. Stirred gently by a big agitator, the berries are cooked in water for a matter of 10 minutes or so, or until... Then, after being carefully strained to remove seeds and skins, the resulting puree goes to another kettle for the second cooking. This time, and that completes the simple ocean spray recipe: cranberries, water, and sugar. For, as any housewife knows, cranberries are rich in natural fruit pectin, need nothing more than to be brought to a fast boil and held there until the temperature rises to the point which, from experience, we know will make the sauce gel just right. This point is 216.5 degrees. But the weather, the humidity, and the barometric pressure all have an effect on the behavior of the jelly too. And so a good cook always double checks in the good old-fashioned way, just to be sure. When the sauce sheets off the ladle like this, it is cooked just enough, ready to be sent down to the canning machines. Here's where speed means economy. Economy that is reflected in lower costs. $280 a minute, the sterilized enamel-lined cans swing into the filling machine, freshly made ruby red sauce, and swing out again on their way to be capped and sealed. The sauce is still hot from... That's the job of this remarkable machine, which keeps every can spinning in a bath of swift-running cold water. The temperature goes down 100 degrees in 5 minutes. Once we had to let the cans cool slowly in the air. Now, as a result of this quick chilling, we get a considerable improvement in the texture and quality of the finished jelly. Now the fast-filling cans are ready for labels. Here's how it's done. Keep right on rolling over a stack of snatching one from the pot as it goes by. And in only a few minutes from the time the empty can entered the plant, it's filled, cooled, labeled, inspected, and packed, ready to take its side all the other forms of this grand fruit, the whole sauce and the juice and the full, ripe, prime, fresh berries. One of the nice things about cranberries is that the dishes you can make with them are as simple as they are delightful. Greatest all-time favorite is the 10-minute sauce, and it's easiest of all to fix. Here's all you need: fresh cranberries, water, and sugar. 1 pound or 4 cups of fresh berries makes 2.5 pounds of whole berry sauce. After combining the water and sugar in a saucepan, You bring them to a good fast boil and cook them for 5 minutes. Then you add the berries to the hot syrup. Make sure they all get covered, but don't stir them. Let them boil without stirring until the berries are tender. You'll know when they're done by the way the skins pop open, one after another. In about 5 minutes, they'll all have popped, and the sauce is done. Set it aside to cool in the pan, still without stirring, so the berries will absorb the juice and remain plump whole. Then they'll look their very best when you serve them, as full of tang and flavor as they are bright and colorful, and mighty good eating with any kind of meat or fish or poultry, including, of course, the noble roast turkey. Fresh cranberries are as good raw as they are cooked. One of the most unusual recipes ever developed is its famous cranberry orange relish. One reason it's such a favorite is because there's no cooking. All you have to do is cut 2 whole oranges into quarters, put them through the food chopper, skins and all, and follow through with 4 cups of fresh whole cranberries. Finally, add 2 cups of sugar to the chopped fruit and mix it well. A few hours of chilling will allow the zip of the cranberries, the tang of the oranges, and the sweetness of the sugar to blend into a flavor and texture so delightful that only tasting it can tell you what it's like. Your favorite molded salad recipe becomes something rich. Cranberries are included. Their crisp tartness is just what it takes to bring out the full flavor of the nuts, celery, and other fruits. The bright red berries, shimmering in the gelatin, make the finished salad look downright glamorous. You can easily see why we call this our Christmas salad, but believe me, it's good any time, any place, with any meal. Everybody likes pie. Men especially go for the old-fashioned crisscross kind like this one, made of cranberries and apples, combining the best of the two in a hearty and delicious pie that's easy to make. The filling is pre-cooked to dissolve the sugar and soften the fruit. The shell can be your favorite recipe or mix. The result is a pie so good to look at, so good to eat, that you'll serve it with pride and find that you'll be called on for many a repeat performance, one that your family will clamor for again and again. Well, these are only a few of the ways you can use this favorite American fruit to add color and zest to your table all through the fresh berries. But there is no season for cranberries in cans. Through their use, you can enjoy them all year round and in many forms. Most popular and versatile is the jellied sauce. Here's a trick worth knowing about getting the sauce out of the can in good shape. First, punch a hole in one end. Then, remove the entire lid from the other end. Now, lift gently. The hole in the top end will let the air in, and the shimmering mold of ruby sauce will emerge whole and perfect, ready to cut into plump, delicious slices that make a perfect taste complement for almost any dish. Not only for the traditional turkey, but chicken too. Chicken all of its many forms, like fashion Cape Cod chicken pie. Or this springy-looking twin salad, cranberry orange salad in another. Golden brown fried chicken tastes twice as good when served with cranberry chicks cut from the same ocean spray slices. And it's easy to do with this plastic cutter, specially designed for the purpose. The trimmings are put aside for later use as a delicious spread for toast or bread. Forks are only one of a whole family of fancy shapes. Another one is used to make this crisp and colorful tulip salad, pot cream cheese, and a cranberry tulip perched on top. For other occasions, there are cranberry hearts for showers and valentines, bunnies for birthdays or Easter, turkeys for Thanksgiving, and trees for Christmas. With the aid of Ocean Spray sauce, you can make new and exciting variations on lots of old favorites, like this Sally Lunn, topped with jewel-like cubes of jellied sauce, which, although they won't melt in the oven, will surely melt in your mouth. Here's another one that'll melt in your mouth, cranberry fawn pie. Delicate in texture and flavor, delightful to the taste, and beautiful to behold. For those who like cranberry sauce in its old-fashioned form, there is the canned whole sauce, made exactly like Mother used to make it. The natural fruit pectin of the berries often makes the sauce gel a little in the can. Just stirring a few moments will liquefy the juice that is gelled. The whole sauce makes a perfect topping for this cranberry log. Mixed with ground orange and jelly, the bland smoothness of the cream cheese filling is a perfect complement to the stimulating taste of the fruit in the topping. An old favorite, wherever cranberry people get together, is the cranberry sundae. It's nothing but plain ice cream covered with whole sauce, just as it comes from the can. Makes a dessert that goes down mighty easy after any meal or between times. Well, there's no end to the good things you can make with cranberries. In or out of season, fresh or canned, they bring out the best in any food you serve them with. Their color delights the eye as much as their flavor pleases the palate. And through modern packing, processing, and distribution, you can enjoy them the whole year round. Not only in the fall of the year when the harvest is coming in and the fresh fruit is on the market, but in the spring when the bogs look like green velvet carpets and growth is just beginning. And in the middle of summer, when a million blossoms foretell a million ripe berries to come. And in the dead of winter, too, when a white mantle of snow covers the sleeping bogs, safeguarding and protecting the harvest of years to come.
A girl has to have a few secrets from her husband. Here's one of mine, new Pillsbury instant mashed potatoes. He doesn't dream that these are instant because they have all the fluff and flavor of home mashed. And I can swish into dinner unsteamed, serene.
Here at last is an instant potato with the fluff and flavor of home mashed. New Pillsbury instant mashed potatoes. You can't tell them from home mashed because Pillsbury has what it takes, flakes. Only flakes whip up into this natural fluffiness, natural fresh flavor. Pillsbury promises you homemade fluff and flavor in new Pillsbury instant mashed potatoes. Try them, and try new Pillsbury quick hash browns, steakhouse-style hash browns, easy to make at home.
Nothing says lovin' like something from the oven, and Pillsbury says it best. Come on and tackle a turkey, a Hardee's Turkey Club. Turkey Club. Turkey, bacon and fixins on a natural grain bun. It's a great big portion of turkey breast, a whole lot of turkey to say the least. Lettuce, tomato and mayonnaise, and sizzling bacon as a centerpiece. Come on and tackle a turkey, something exciting for lunch. Exciting for lunch. Come on, let's go gobble one up, a Hardee's Turkey Club.
This is to be a guessing game on table manners. Betty, our hostess, is having a few of her friends to her home for a birthday party. She has been to any number of little parties like this, but this is the first time she has given a party all by herself. Like everyone else, she thinks that her etiquette is perhaps not perfect, but good enough so that there are no glaring errors. She is proud of her table arrangement and thinks she deserves a word of congratulation. But the housekeeper must tell Betty she has noticed a few errors. A napkin is out of place. The butter knife belongs on the butter dish, not next to the meat knife. And a water glass is missing. Small matters, but they are important when they show whether or not your habits of etiquette are correct. See if you notice right away when someone is incorrect or is definitely correct. Betty's confidence is shaken a bit, and she has doubts of her correctness. Should she have preceded her guests into the room? Is she directing them to their places properly? Should Betty have used place cards? The young man who is trying, too late, to assist Betty with her chair is Bob. It is his birthday that is being celebrated, and he is acting as host. He seems to feel that he, too, has gotten off to a wrong start. Betty's arm shows that she is trying to be at ease and just act as she always does. Notice now how she is spreading her napkin. Is that correct? What of Bob's way of opening his napkin and tucking a corner in his belt? Could that be all right? Bernie and Helen seem quite certain of the way they open their napkins and place them in a half fold in their laps. They seem to be really at ease. But then everyone is more at ease now that the party is really... The main thing is that they should enjoy each other's company. Betty and Bob are worrying about their mistakes for a moment, but in the back of their minds they realize they will have to pay more attention to their manners. They know that the object of correct etiquette is not to make life formal and dull, but for each act of etiquette, as in a man's assisting a lady with her chair, or the order with which people are served. Bob is hungry, and the soup looks good. He is using his company manners, but as we see, he is doing at least 3 things wrong. Now that the soup is served, Betty sees that the crackers are passed. Floyd passes the crackers to Dorothea before he helps himself. Should he have helped himself first or not? Bob is eating before the others. What about that? Apparently the guests are waiting for Betty to pick up her spoon before they begin. Dorothea waits until she sees that Betty is eating, and then she too starts, and they all enjoy it. Bob gradually becomes aware that he and Dorothea are eating their soup differently. He realizes that he knows better than he is acting. The spoon should move away from you. The left hand isn't needed to hold the dish. And the spoon shouldn't be filled to overflowing, for that is always awkward. But naturally, the guests give no indication of having noticed any error on Bob's part, since that in itself would be impolite. As the relish dish is passed, Bob takes a handful and puts them on his service plate, and back he goes to his soup in the same old way. Then Bob notices that the others have placed their relish differently and changes them from one plate to the other, knowing there is a reason, but what is it? But having made the change, Bob is glad to see Betty has noticed that he corrected himself. All is well again with the party. No one's enjoyment is being interrupted with any problems for the moment. Betty now is running into some problems of her own, things that she hadn't thought of until now. That elbow on the table isn't one of her problems because she isn't even aware of it, but she is aware of the olive as a problem. Is there a correct way of eating an olive? Shouldn't you just pop it into your mouth and eat it? But then how do you take out the pit? With your fingers? And when you have the pit, where should you place it? Floyd seems to have confidence in his way, but also too many fingers. Betty thinks she might try Floyd's way. Betty hopes that she doesn't look as awkward as she feels. Now our hostess feels better about the olives, but right away she sees something else. Dorothea is breaking her celery before taking a bite. Celery has always been just celery. You ate it in whatever lengths you found it. Is it easier to handle in shorter lengths? And does it look like a smaller bite when you dip it in the salt and then bite off a portion? Bernie and Helen don't seem to be concerned with any problems. Bernie eats a radish and simply enjoys it, and he seems certain of himself. Helen is even tipping her soup plate for a last sup. Can that be correct? Certainly her manners aren't interfering with her enjoyment of the party. As host, Bob is expected to serve the meat course. At home, his father does the serving. It looked perfectly simple, and it is. But if you were in Bob's place, would you know positively what to do? Which serving implement should he use? Should he just go ahead as best he can? Dorothea is looking away so as not to notice. Bob still isn't sure of what to do, but he can't hesitate forever. That amount seems too much. A lady is not flattered by being offered a portion the size that might appeal to a hungry lumberjack. Betty is worried for Bob, but after all, he is trying. Everyone learns by experience, even when mistakes are made, and one isn't at all sure of anything that he is doing. Bob wonders if the portions he is serving are now too small. Should he give a large portion to the men and small ones to the ladies? Or should he serve about this amount and let the guests return their plates if they wish a second helping? Now Betty is about to serve the salad. Some new questions are arising. Can she use the implements for serving the salad correctly? And what size should the portions of salad be? Is she offering too little? Is she getting a proper assortment? As Betty passes the plate, should she say for whom the plate is intended? Bernie and Helen act as though everything were going smoothly with them. And so really it is. In spite of Betty's worries, there are no mishaps. Floyd and Dorothea are enjoying themselves. Bob, you notice, is not starting first this time. He waits with the others for Betty to start. Here is the kind of fun that they all thought of when the party was planned, of having a good meal together and plainly enjoying one another's company. The errors that have been made haven't taken the fun out of the party, and we must remember to give them credit for all the things that have been done correctly. For every mistake made, a dozen things have been done correctly. Bob is feeling more confident of himself. He seems to remember that it is correct to use his knife for cutting lettuce or tomato if they are served in pieces that are too big for a proper bite. What do you think? Is he wrong or is he right? Having confidence in your manners is important to your feeling at ease socially. But the person with confidence isn't necessarily the person who is correct. Up until this minute, Betty has been confident that a person should butter his vegetables with his knife. But now that Betty sees Floyd buttering his with his fork, she isn't certain. She wishes she did know definitely. It seems safer to follow Floyd's example. If he is correct, then she will be too. Bob is swinging from one extreme to another. 1 minute he is uneasy, the next overconfident. Now he is forgetting even his company manners and is acting as he usually does in telling one of his favorite stories. Dorothea and Floyd give him their attention when he is looking at them, but at the same time they manage to continue eating while their food is warm. Bob isn't letting the story interfere with his eating either. So let's try counting the number of obvious blunders. The waving of his knife and fork about. Talking with food in his mouth. Monopolizing the conversation. But it is an exciting story. It's about a trip up in the mountains, and then, uh-oh. This isn't the kind of an ending to the story that Bob had in mind, but it is quicker and maybe better. At least it stopped Bob from making any more mistakes. Betty, too, has discovered that she had forgotten a couple of items of behavior. She is thinking that perhaps she and Bob both need to be embarrassed a bit to make them admit that their manners aren't as good as they should be. Bob may be thinking the same thing, because he certainly looks as if he has decided to make a lot of changes. The others, of course, say nothing. Betty decides that the first thing for her to do is to regain her poise. Just act as though no errors had been made. But she will be more observing of her own manners and those of others too. Betty feels safe in her way of eating a roll and jelly. Is there anything in what Bernie and Helen are doing that would get your attention right away? Was there anything in the way he helped himself to more jelly? How about the way he holds his knife and fork? Or the way he cuts his meat? And takes it to his mouth with his left hand. When you are eating meat, do you take the meat to your mouth with the fork in your right hand or your left? Is there a question of correctness here? Helen is also using her left hand. Betty holds the fork in her left hand while cutting the meat and then passes the fork to her right hand for placing it in her mouth. This is zigzag eating. She has noticed that the British and continental people usually use their left hands. But now that she is beginning to take her manners seriously, she wonders if there is a matter of correctness involved or whether both ways are equally correct. One way American, the other European. Betty wishes she were as certain of that point as she is of how her knife should be placed. Bob has never heard of zigzag or continental ways of eating meat, but he is on the watch out for such things now. And as soon as he notices what Betty is doing, he is ready to follow her example, whether she is right or wrong. He uses his left hand all right, even if he does take an oversized bite. Bob congratulates himself on trying a new way. He and Betty have a lot to learn. At least there are no further mishaps as the meat course is finished and the table cleared for dessert. Bob is happy now and is proud of himself. Formal parties like this are really enjoyable when one isn't afraid of doing the wrong thing. Bob has reached the point where he feels that since his intentions are good and he is watching himself, that all is well. If you just try to figure out what is the reason for each rule of etiquette, you find that the rules are sensible. After all, correct manners are simply the way one person shows his consideration for another. In other words, proper manners are your way of showing common politeness. As far as Bob is concerned, this is the best birthday he has ever had. And to top it off, a big birthday cake that Betty had made for him. He really appreciates this. For the cake is a symbol, like the whole dinner, of friendship. A very delicious symbol of the regard that Betty and her friends hold for Bob, particularly Betty. The lighting of the birthday cake with candles is an old custom, and so is the blowing out of the candles. But do you suppose the placing of the candles at the side is a modern touch of avoiding possible germs being blown on the cake? Serving the meat course upset Bob. Apparently serving the cake has its difficulties too. Our hostess isn't certain that she should be helping Bob. She worried about leaving the table to bring in the cake in the first place. Betty wondered if the serving should be left to the housekeeper. What would you say? There is no denying that Bob needs help. He is having trouble with the serving implements again. Do you think he might be able to figure out from the shape and the size of the blades which to use? Cutting and serving your own birthday cake would seem to be a pleasure, but could you actually do this any more gracefully than Bob is? Betty's help may not be as great as she thinks. What of her reaching in front of Bob, and about her placing the dessert forks? Are these correct? Bob accompanies Betty to her place, assisting her with her chair before resuming his serving. He is at least trying to change his habits. And you notice, he forgot his napkin and sat on it. He is serving smoothly now and is not distracting his friends with his difficulties. They are free again to chat as they wish. And once again, the party is fun. Bob and Betty met more problems than they expected. As we are seeing, people like Betty and Bob, who want to entertain their friends and have good times together, forget that poor manners can really interfere with the fun of the party. There is no fun in being worried, unsure, or ill at ease. It is much simpler in the long run to face your problems, find out what the correct answer is, and then when you act in a way that you know for certain is correct, your mind is perfectly free. Of course, all this isn't accomplished just by wishing. There are still habits that have first to be detected and then broken. This is hard. Then new habits have to be formed. But a little study of etiquette will help greatly, and its lessons are all practical. Once you have formed correct habits in your manners, you will find that they give you a sense of confidence. That is a reward in itself. Our party is ending, but let's hope that for you it is, in another sense, just a beginning. As you think of Betty and Bob and their problems, compare your own manners. Don't forget that it is by their manners that polite people the world around show their consideration for one another. A dinner party is just one way of enjoying company of your friends. A good meal, good company, real enjoyment, that's what a dinner party is for.
Now we will answer the questions asked about etiquette as you saw dinner party. We will look at the scenes which show correct behavior and make certain that you know what is correct. The housekeeper is correct, of course, about the napkin, the butter knife, and the missing water glass. This is the proper way of opening and placing your napkin. The posture is correct, too. Betty's seating of her guests is correct. The men and women are seated alternately. There is no need for place cards at a small party of this type. The housekeeper serves each person from his left, which is correct, except for serving drinks, which are served from a person's right side, where the glasses and cups are placed. In passing the crackers, Floyd first offers them to his partner before helping himself. He is right in this. Even though Bob is acting as host, he should not begin eating before the others, but wait for Betty, his hostess, to begin, as the others are doing. Dorothea waits until Betty picks up her spoon, and then they all begin. Dorothea is correct in the example she sets for Bob in the eating of soup. The spoon moves away from her. The sup is small. Betty improves her way of eating an olive. But she could improve still more by not nibbling, but just taking small bites. Anyway, she disposes of the pit correctly on the butter dish. It is proper to break celery into short lengths so that it can be handled more easily. Again, Betty is awkward, but she does break the celery and salt it properly. Even in the small items of food, like olives and celery, sensible rules apply. Bernie, too, is correct, but a little awkward. For all of Bob's fears and fumblings about serving properly, he manages to select the right portion of meat, not too large, not too small. Betty shouldn't worry. These portions may seem small to some of you, but they're about right. The plate is not heaped with food or overflowing. And later on, Bob will offer a second helping to those with hearty appetites who wish more. It is perfectly polite to accept a second helping. In the serving of the salad, Betty is correct in the way she uses the serving spoon and fork, in her selection of the salad vegetables, and in the portions she offers. She should not direct her guests in the passing of the plates. Bob happens to be right in using his knife to cut the tomato in his salad. However, a salad is usually prepared so that a knife will not be necessary. Only head lettuce and tomato may be cut. In buttering vegetables, it is correct to use the fork rather than the knife. Usually, vegetables are buttered in the kitchen, except where individual preferences can't be known in advance, as with potatoes. Betty needs no correction in her manner of breaking a small portion from her roll before buttering and placing jelly on it. She is correct in this, and not at all awkward about it. Bernie's way of holding his knife and fork and of cutting his meat is proper, but his eating with his left hand is a matter you may wish to discuss or investigate for yourselves. Perhaps the people in your family or your section of the country all eat meat with the right hand. Experts on etiquette suggest to you that the eating of meat with the left hand is preferable to zigzag eating, mostly because it is simpler and not because it is a continental custom. Betty is imitating the others until she can think the matter over. But using the left hand correctly does not excuse oversized bites, even with the best of intentions. However, Bob does use his napkin correctly at last. In cutting and serving the cake, Bob is actually correct in what he does, even if he is slow about it. And Betty's helping him is informal, but still correct. Putting the candles around the cake may be overcautious, but might prevent possible germs from being blown on it. Bob uses the cake knives properly and manages to get the cake on the plate safely. The shape of the knives tells him how they may best be used for cutting and lifting. Betty shouldn't reach in front of Bob, but she does place the dessert fork on the plate properly. Betty and her friends have no difficulty in eating the cake correctly and with enjoyment. They take enjoyment in knowing they are correct. But Bob's enjoyment almost makes him forget to take bites that aren't too big to be put in the mouth without awkwardness. Yet in correcting himself, he is learning, and he congratulates himself on his progress. As the party ends, the men assist the ladies with their chairs, and the gentlemen escort their ladies from the dining room. Bob excuses himself for passing in front of the others, then assists Betty. As host and hostess, they leave last, their party a success.
I'm starved. What do we get?
Why don't you come on and tackle a turkey? A Hardee's Turkey Club. Turkey Club. Turkey, bacon and fixins on a natural grain fun.
A great big portion of turkey breast, that's a whole lot of turkey to say the least.
Lettuce, tomato, and mayonnaise. And sizzling bacon as a centerpiece. Come on and tackle a turkey. A Hardee's Turkey Club.
We'll take two.
We're in apple country, and rain or shine, we're going to compare Mrs. Hurlbut's apple pie with Sara Lee's. I'll taste hers.
And I'll taste yours.
Excellent.
So is Sara Lee's. The crust is delicate and tender.
How about the filling?
Sweet and tart, like an apple pie should be. Firm and plenty of apple. No wonder nobody doesn't like Sara Lee. It's as good as mine.
We're in apple country, and rain or shine, we're going to compare Mrs. Hurlbut's apple pie with Sara Lee's. I'll taste hers.
And I'll taste yours.
Excellent.
So is Sara Lee's. The crust is delicate and tender.
How about the filling?
Sweet and tart, like an apple pie should be. Firm and plenty of apple. No wonder nobody doesn't like Sara Lee. It's as good as mine.
For the juiciest roasts and poultry, or yummy chops there are lots of.
Put what you like in see-through reveal and take out something you love.
Starting now, you'll roast the juiciest, most flavorful meats in the see-through roasting wrap Reveal with Sure Seal strips. Wrap in see-through Reveal, and you can keep an eye on things from start to finish. Watch. Reveal's unique Sure Seal strips lock in the flavorful juices, all the while it's roasting. The meat is continuously basting inside the wrap, deliciously browning right through the wrap, while your oven stays clean as a whistle. And your roast gets done to mouth-watering perfection. Large, small, any size at all.
Put what you like in see-through reveal and take out something you love. Put what you like in see-through reveal and take out something you love.
The family gathers, new babies here, and great-grandmother knows it's clear that it wouldn't be home without Helen.
At times like this, family traditions are important, like Hellman's Real Mayonnaise. It's the best, the one you depend on to make all their favorite foods taste terrific.
Everything was great, Grandma. And it wouldn't be home without